How does today's terrible real estate market compare to an average market? Well, that's a pretty important question to ask because we're coming off of 24 months of absolute insanity in the real estate market. And often a very regular or average market can be misconstrued for a very bad market. Now, recently I've done a very deep dive and kind of geeked out a little bit on some of the stats to find out exactly where we're at. Because, well, when you come out of a crazy market like we've been in the last little bit, it's very hard to acclimatize to what might be a much more normal market. For instance, if you were driving down the freeway at 120 kilometers an hour, and then you took your exit and got into city traffic, and now you have to slow down to, say, 50 kilometers an hour, well, it's at that point you feel like you're traveling really, really slowly. And in fact, there's a really good case for the fact that you were just traveling really, really fast before, and now you've come down to a much more realistic speed. So we're going to dive into some of those numbers to find out if we are indeed in a much more realistic market, or if the market is truly really, really bad. And stick around to the end of this video where I'm going to share with you a trend that I'm seeing in the market that, well, it may change your opinion on long-term real estate in the Fraser Valley. And if you would like to stay up to date on the Surrey and Fraser Valley real estate market, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And if you learn anything here today, if you could please go ahead and click the like button, it would really help me get this information out to a bunch of other people just like you through the YouTube algorithm. And of course, if you are looking for specific real estate advice that a general video like this cannot give you, you can go ahead and book a call with me right now using the link in the description below. So I'm going to pop into some numbers that I pulled here, and I actually pulled two different sets of statistics, and I will try and zoom in for you here very, very quickly. One was I pulled the months of inventory for as long as it has been tracked in the Fraser Valley. The other was the number of sales per month since they've been tracked again in the Fraser Valley. Now, number of sales is this bottom graph here, and you can see that it tracks back to 1980 all the way up to present. The second graph here is months of inventory. Unfortunately, it was only tracked since about 1989, and I've tried to sync these graphs up as best I can so you can see how they correlate, because they 100% correlate. For example, when the market has a whole lot of months of inventory like it did after the great financial crisis here in end of 2008, if you move directly down, you're going to see that the number of sales actually plummets. Now, each one of these peaks is year by year, so you're going to see each year represented here because obviously you have more sales in the spring and summer months than you do in the winter months. So that's why it's so jagged like that. However, when you look at the overall months of inventory again, you're going to notice that they correlate. Every time you have a spike here or a dip here, you're going to have the opposite happen, usually where there are the amount of sales. So when we zoom in on, for instance, the last couple of pandemic years, when you have this crazy low that we've, by the way, never seen previous, maybe a little bit in 1989, right before that crash, but you saw these crazy, crazy low inventory levels. You're also going to notice that you saw these crazy, crazy high sale levels, higher than we have seen at any other time. Moving back to 2016, when the foreign money may or may not have been coming into Vancouver and driving up prices, we see that same sort of activity and the same sort of declines in months of inventory. But what I did here is I compared both. So let's start with months of inventory. I took the average of all of the months of inventory. This is not seasonally adjusted. I'm not smart enough of a person to figure out seasonally adjusted. I just took the average of all of the months of inventory ever reported since 1989 from the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board, and that average is 6. And here you can see it as the purple line and how much time we've spent above and how much time we spent low. By the way, above means bad market. So early 90s, well, all of the 90s, really bad market. The early 2000s and then the early 2010s, if that's a thing, the 20 teens, really, really good market. And as I mentioned, really, really good market. If you mean prices are going up, being a good market, just this last year. Now I did the exact same thing for average number of sales. What I'm frustrated with, or what maybe might not be a good representation, is I couldn't put this against any actual population growth, which you would assume if you have the same amount of sales now as you did in 1981, that would be a way worse market because you should have a much, much bigger population. Unfortunately, again, not smart enough to figure out those numbers. But this green line here is the average amount of sales, not seasonally adjusted each and every month. So you can see in 1980s, obviously we had way less sales, obviously a way smaller population as well. But then you'll notice this one big green dip here. And again, that's a 2008 financial crisis where we had extremely low sales. And yes, now over the last few months, at least since let's call it June, July, we have seen a really low number of sales, and we are now below what, well, here is a 42-year average. But then I wanted to take a look at the actual numbers. And now this is a given set of months. This data only went until November of this last year. The number of sales in November of 2022 was 786. The average November, however, was over 1,000. So as far as average Novembers go, this was a really slow month. Let's call it 25% or so. And then the average, again, not seasonally adjusted, is 1,155 sales. So that's a really good benchmark. You can tell what the market is doing because over the last 40 years, on average, there was over 1,100 sales per month. And right now, we're even trending lower than this 786. And there's a really good chance that January, it could be like 400 or 500. But the number right below it is months of inventory. In November, just this last one, which is again the newest stats that I could get out of Korea for the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board, there was 6 months of supply. The average months of supply since 1989 was 6. And the average of all of those Novembers was 6 months of supply. So here's what these numbers tell me. We are in, months of inventory wise, a very normal market. We have finally returned to a normal market. The number of sales, however, is extremely, extremely low. And I think that trend is going to continue to go down. And yes, that is going to bring prices down for the foreseeable future. So this market is one that presents us a situation where the speculators, flippers, people that are not really into investment for investment's sake, well, they are all currently out of the market. And this market, well, it is for the person that has a need. If you want to own a property, if you see the long-term vision, or if you want to put a roof over your kid's head and you have a need to stay somewhere, these are the types of people that are moving in this marketplace. And let me go on record as saying, hey, I think that is really healthy for the market. And that's where the majority of our market should be most of the time. But now let me share with you the nugget of which I teased you with at the beginning of the video. I am seeing a trend in Fraser Valley real estate right now. And that trend is almost every, and I'm speaking with a lot of them, almost every single buyer I'm talking to right now is not a Canadian citizen, and they are exempt from the foreign buyer ban. They are PRs, or they have their permanent residence card. So right now, Canadians seem to be frozen, not having the ability to finance more, not wanting to take less for their properties. However, the people that are new to Canada, they're bringing a lot of money, and they weren't involved in the previous 2 years with trying to purchase at previous prices, at previous interest rates. So those buyers, well, they're new to the market, they're ready to buy, and at the exact same time, they're not affected by these interest rates because a lot of people moving to this country right now, they are high income earners coming from other countries. And those high income permanent residents who will one day likely be citizens are, as I said, exempt from the foreign buyers ban, the foreign buyers tax, because, well, they're permanent residents, they're Canadians now, and they are all settling in Metro Vancouver, the Fraser Valley, and around Toronto. So there you go. Do you agree? Are we in a regular market again, just with prices that have come off absolute craziness? I'm sure you will let me know down below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to subscribe, click the like button, and we'll see you in a couple of days.